Welcome to the Boating Adventure. It's Tuesday the 27th of September 2022. Yesterday, Steve and I, we went down to
Foxton Locks
because when we did the Foxton Locks in August, when we went up the Foxton Locks, it was a really hot day and we had spent quite a lot of time waiting down at the bottom to get up the locks. So by the time we got up there, we were a bit tired,
absolutely shattered,
to be bothered to walk all the way down again. And then on the way back, it was absolutely throwing it down with rain, and we just wanted to get through the locks. So we decided that we would go back to Foxton Locks on a day when we could really have a good look at it. So yesterday we decided to go. There are really two parts to Foxton Locks. There are the locks, the flight of locks, which is 2 staircases, but there are also the remains of the incline plane, which was another method that they tried to use to get boats up and down the hillside, but it didn't last very long. I think the lady in the Canal Museum said it only lasted for just over 10 years.
Yeah.
That's because it didn't open until 1900, so by then it was a little bit late for the canal trade and so forth, and it also had quite a lot of problems with it breaking down, and also the route for wide beams wasn't open all the way down to London, because the flight of locks at Watford were narrow locks. So it didn't last very long. So we went yesterday to have a look at the museum, the flight of locks and the incline plane. So I hope you enjoy this video. So there in front of us we can see the top lock at Foxton Locks, and this is where we moored the swamp duck when we waited to go down. And we also use the water points in front of us on the way up. So we're going to take the path on the offside, and just in front of me here there is another part of the canal. It's all weeded over at the moment, so you can't actually go down there, but that takes us to the top of the inclined plane, which is no longer in use, but we'll take a look at that later on. So we're going to take the path over here where you can see Steve, and that takes us down to the museum. So we'll have a little walk down there. So this bit of canal would have taken the narrowboats and the barges around to the top of the inclined plane. And it would have brought the boats to this part here, which is the top of the inclined plane. And if I just turn the camera around, follow it down the hillside. And you can see the canal at the bottom. So with a series of rails and pulleys operated by steam, the barges would have been pulled up and lowered down. So we've now arrived at the Canal Museum, and this was the boiler house for the inclined plane. And that's just right next to the locks. So come inside and discover the incredible history of Foxton Locks and the Foxton boat lift. So that's what we're going to do.
There's two Lancashire boilers in here, huge things,
Yeah.
Which were powered by coal, which then the steam to produce to move the engine that was housed in here. And then behind, obviously, us was the slope, which had the two caissons that moved up and down.
Just over the back.
Yeah.
So
they
just come past that.
Yeah, the only original big part of this building is actually this back wall.
Right.
And that's what's holding part of the incline up as well.
Oh, right.
Okay.
But all that to come in.
But yes. Yeah.
It was an interesting project, wasn't it, really?
It was amazing.
I mean, it didn't last that long, did
No,
it?
just over 10 years.
Is that all?
Yeah. Bad timing.
So this is a picture of the incline plane. The lady guide was just telling us that it had a very short lifespan, partly because it wasn't completed until 1900, by which time the canals were really falling out of use due to the impact of the railways. And also it was a bit of a white elephant because it was built to take wide beams, and you can get a wide beam all the way from Trent Lock all the way down the River Soar through Leicester to Foxton, and they could have taken them up the incline plane, but once they got as far as Watford they wouldn't have been able to get any further because the locks at Watford are narrow locks, and they would have had to have built something like this or widen the locks, but it never happened. So that was partly another reason why this fell out of use. It also wasn't very reliable, and it did break down a lot. The Grand Junction Canal Company wanted to make a wide canal from Foxton to Norton Junction. They appointed their engineer Gordon Cale Thomas. Wide locks would use too much water from the canal's summit pound, so his solution was to build a boat lift to his patented design. For 10 years the Foxton lift worked successfully. It saved time, saved water, and was cost effective. There were some problems, but they were only to be expected with such an innovative design. The boat lift was an engineering success, and there were very grand plans for the future. Things started to go wrong in 1901 when the plan for a lift at Watford Gap was dropped. Watford locks were rebuilt narrow, ending hopes for a wide route between London and the north. Here's a really good working model of the incline plane, and Steve is going to operate it for me. So really it was a similar principle to the Anderton boat lift. You've got a sort of counterbalance there of two caissons going up and down. Obviously on a incline rather than up in the air. It's really very interactive, this museum, and it's won lots of recognition for its work with children and children with disabilities, people with autism, that kind of thing. So here's a good example of a mock-up of a narrowboat, and you can actually get inside it. It's a little bit low down for me, I don't want to bang my head. I'm sure children will find that really fascinating. And it even has a little mock-up of a stove. And some of the traditional artwork, castles. So here we've got a collection of Measham teapots. These all look fairly genuine ones.
How the boat lift actually operated. So this used to be on top of this building, winding drum within the house with the engine. Obviously there's a base, the chimney's just outside here. And if you parked in the bottom car park, there's one of the wheels down there.
Okay.
Because there was 8 at the top as part of the pulley system and 2 down the bottom. So yeah, much quicker to go down the boat lift than to go through locks.
So how did they get the boat on?
In a minute you'll see. At the bottom it goes right down into the water. So here it goes in. And then it lifts the gates, lifts up, and then the boat just goes off because the tanks are both full of water.
Yeah.
And at the top, the canal came out to meet the beach caisson. The furthest away one, there was like an aqueduct built out towards the far end. And then there's these clever things called the hydraulic rams, which we saw.
Yeah.
They slightly pushed it enough without derailing it, but to create the water seal to then be able to lift up the gates to them. But yeah, well done. You did it.
And there's a photograph, an aerial view of Foxton Locks. So this is where we came from, we started down there. And here's the Canal Museum where we are now. These are the pounds which supply the water for the locks. and just there is the inclined plane, so it would have taken boats down that way to this little arm here, and that is the Market Harbour branch of the Grand Union, and that's coming from Leicester way. The idea for Foxton Locks came from a man called Benjamin Bevan. It was his idea to group all the locks together in one place rather than spread them out down a hillside. And he came up with the design for the ponds at the side of the locks, which saved water and time. He built the 10 locks in 2 groups of 5 to give a little passing pound. It's a little information film here on how you should actually work these locks. The rule is red before white and you'll be alright, white before red and you could end up not very well. Here we are again at Foxton Locks. We're just standing at the top of the first staircase just here. This is lock number 5 in front of me, and then up on the hillside we've got the other 5 locks. It was actually quite difficult to film this when we came up, because for one thing we had lost one of the cameras in one of the locks, so we didn't have a really good front facing camera, and really you do need to concentrate on what you're doing to make sure you get it right. So Steve was doing the locks whilst I drove the boat through, and you can't really afford to make too many mistakes on this stretch here. So Foxton had 2 methods of getting up and down this hillside. From 1900 to about 1910 it had the flight of locks here, and it also had the inclined plane, which would have been a lot quicker had it been a successful project, but unfortunately it didn't work that well, and because of the demise of the trade on the canals it soon disappeared. There are plans to restore it, but I'm sure that would cost an awful lot of money. And this in front is one of the pounds. It helped to conserve water, because this lock flight must get through an awful lot of water. So I'm really glad that we made the effort to come back here today, because on the day that we came up Foxton Locks we missed so much because we were so busy, and it was very crowded because of the weather. The whole world and his wife had come out, so it was difficult to film. There's hardly anybody around today, and we've only seen a couple of boats go up and down. Quite chilly today actually, and it's amazing how the weather changes so quickly in the UK, just a month later, and we've got coats on, and we've had quite a bit of rain, so hopefully that's going to fill up some of these reservoirs. So we certainly need some rain in preparation for next summer. I think we're going to get very wet. So I hope you've enjoyed our trip to Foxton Locks today. We certainly have. It's been really good.
The museum was very interesting, wasn't it?
So if you get the chance, do make a visit. Recommend it. So thank you very much for watching, and do take care.
Bye.